extended. Going up on a Tuesday, these scrippers up in here scripping. Movie night, Blu-ray, we pulling shucks in my city. Gunfights, goon plays, my plug.
What's good, y'all? I'm Hip, and I'm back with another video for you. Today, I'm going to tell y'all what it's like taking Molly. In particular, what it was like the time I took 22 of them bitches. That's crazy. First of all, what is Molly? Molly is MDMA. MDMA stands for methylene dioxymethamphetamine. Damn, that's a mouthful. It's more commonly known as Molly or ecstasy, and it's also known as X pills, rolls, beans, and down south we call them jiggers. MDMA is a psychoactive drug that acts as a stimulant and a hallucinogen. So it gives you the stimulant effects of methamphetamine, speed, but it also gives you psychedelic and hallucinogenic effects like mescaline. It usually comes in a pill form or as a crystal substance, or they might bust it down and put it in a capsule. The pill form is usually called X or ecstasy, where the crystal form is what most people call Molly, but it's all the same thing. One of the most common misconceptions is that the crystal Molly is a purer form of MDMA, but that's not the case. It's really all the same. The bad thing is you never know what you're getting nowadays unless you got a testing kit, because they can put anything in a pill. You could get pure MDMA, but it's often cut with other substances like caffeine, amphetamines, different stuff like that. And even though they think Molly, the crystal form, is a more pure form, most of the times when you buy a Molly, you're not really getting MDMA. A lot of times it's an analog of MDMA like methadone or ethylone, which just acts like MDMA, but it's not really MDMA. And sometimes you might just get methamphetamine, because crystal meth, if you ingest it orally, if you eat it, it acts much the same as MDMA does. If you take enough of it, it's hard to even tell the difference between the two. So if you took Molly before, chances are you might have just did meth and you ain't even know it. MDMA was synthesized in like 1912. It was produced by pharmaceutical companies back then. In the 1970s, it was used by psychiatrists to help with therapy and counseling sessions, because they seen that it would help the patients talk about their problems and be more willing to talk. So like they would have a married couple that was in counseling or whatever, and they give them some MDMA, and they found that they could sit there and talk about all their problems and figure everything out. So they seen that it had some medical benefits. But in 1985, during the Just Say No campaign, Say No to Drugs, it was banned by the USA and put on the controlled substance list. It's a Schedule I narcotic, meaning that it had a high potential for abuse and no real medical value. Now, how does MDMA work and what does it do to your body? MDMA increases energy and empathy and works on the reward system of your brain. It releases crazy amounts of dopamine and serotonin in your brain, which is the reward system and the pleasure system of your brain. So it makes you feel real good, like intense euphoria. It also raises your blood pressure, raises your heart rate, increases your internal body temperature, and your body can't regulate your temperature That's how a lot of people end up overdosing and dying, because it's mostly took in nightclubs and raves and stuff like that. And people don't stay hydrated enough, don't drink enough water. They get dehydrated and their body can't cool them down. That's when a lot of people end up in trouble taking MDMA. It enhances your mood and sexual arousal. It increases your trust in others. It gives you a sense of confidence and well-being, and you just think you're the shit. It makes you feel like Superman, really. It also makes you feel like you can talk to anybody about anything. It lowers your inhibitions and makes you more willing to communicate with others, even people you never met before. You might sit there and tell them your whole life story, but if it is somebody you're close to, you could talk to them about anything. You express your love for them and stuff like that. There's some bad sides to it though too, like it causes nausea, dizziness, blurred vision. It makes your teeth clench, like your jaw just be, makes you grind your teeth together. It decreases your appetite and makes you not be able to sleep. The after effects, the come down is one of the worst of any drugs I've ever done. When you're coming down, your whole body hurts. You want to go to sleep, but you can't go to sleep. You can't eat. It's bad. And the effects of MDMA usually last about 3 to 6 hours. Then you want to do more. There's also MDA, which is another hallucinogen. The difference is it's more of a hallucinogen than a stimulant. It don't have you up as much. It lasts longer. It lasts maybe like 6 to 10 hours. So a lot of times they'll cut the pills. It'll have some MDA, some MDMA. Actually, those are the best ones I've ever took. It was like that. When you finally do get to go to sleep, the after effects are still not over. They can last for up to a week. I know the worst for me was always the day after, because you don't really sleep the night after you do it, the day after you do it. So you're up for 2 days. Then when you finally go to sleep, when you wake up the next day, then it gets real bad. It was usually called Suicide Monday, because when your brain releases all that dopamine and serotonin, now it has to catch up, and it takes a while for that to happen. And so you can experience irritability, aggression, depression, anxiety, sleep problems. Your appetite still ain't good. It's not fun. I remember when we used to do it a lot, me and baby mama, when we were doing it, we could talk about everything and seemingly like fix all our problems. Then after we'd wake up, after finally going to sleep, then everything would be worse than it was before. It's crazy. So there are some good qualities and bad qualities of it. MDMA, it makes just everything feel like it's the best thing ever. Like you drink some water, that's the best water ever. Sex is amazing. It just makes everything awesome. Now, I've had so many experiences with MDMA, I could fill up a book. I started taking it, I was maybe 18 or 19, I think, and I fell in love with it. But it got to a point where we was doing it so much that on the weekends, if we wasn't rolling, we couldn't have fun. It was bad. Like, I have an addictive personality, so if I like something, I'ma do it to excess. That's just, I guess that's how my brain's made up. I don't know. But there was like a 3-year period where I was selling X pills, and we was going to the club every weekend, all weekend, and sometimes we was rolling during the week too. So how our typical weekend would go, I would go to work Friday, get off, go to the club, never get any sleep, have to work Saturday, go to work, leave work Saturday night, go back to the club, and stay up pretty much all day Sunday. I would have to go to work Sunday morning most of the time too. And then finally, Sunday evening or Sunday night when I got off work, whichever it was, I could finally go to sleep. So we would be up 3 days every weekend for like 3 years. And so I finally had to move out of my homeboy's house because we was all doing it every weekend. And I tried to not go sometimes, but it was just too hard. So I finally had to move out. So that brings me to the night I ate 22 jiggers. So this was a few months later after I had stopped going every weekend. It was 4th of July weekend, 2005. We were going to Excess and Orbit, me and a few of my friends. That's an actual picture from the night that it happened. This is also the first night that I ever tried crystal meth. I did 2 bumps of that in the parking lot. My homeboy Jet, he had the plug on the pills that night. So what we would do, we would go to him and get 50X pills and a 1/4 ounce of powder, cocaine, and come back to the club and they would flip them. I wouldn't really sell that much in the club, really not at all, because I would be so faded that I was useless, basically. I was like a little baby. So on this night, they was green Willy Wonkas. I remember like it was yesterday. Every time he'd sell out, we'd go get some more. We did this 3 times. The last time, he said he ain't going back. So he finessed the plug out of like 50X pills and a 1/4 ounce of powder. So the whole rest of the night to the next day, he's just handing out pills. Every time we would go to somebody's house or whatever, he was just handing them out. So he was handing me some too. I would try and remember to stick them in my pocket so I could just save them. But I was so faded, I would forget. And then by the time I remember, he done looked at me and be like, you ain't ate them pills yet? So then I would just eat them. So I end up eating 22 of them. And really, after like the 5th or 6th one, it really didn't have no effect. I mean, I guess it kept me on a certain level. You know, I didn't really come down for a while. But I didn't get like crazy high. I felt like I was gonna die or nothing like that. A bunch of crazy stuff happened that weekend. So when we left the club Saturday morning, we had lost Jet and we find him walking down the road looking crazy. So we pick him up. We went over to one of our friends' house and he had just woke up and we had all this coke. My homeboy Suspect, RIP that guy, told him, if you'll do all this in one line, I'll give it to you. And it was a 1/2 gram of powder. And if you know how much that is, that's a pretty good bit. That's a rail. For one line, that's a big one. And his big ass did that shit too. I ain't never seen nobody do that. Just wake up and hit it. All right, he better than me. I couldn't do it. Later, me and Jet had went over some guy he met from the club's house. And I'm sitting on the couch and I'm faded because he would still been handing me X pills through the day. And I was really just ready to go home. After a while, they went back to the club Saturday night. I didn't go. So they took me to my baby mama's apartment. This was maybe like 10 o'clock that night and went to sleep. I woke up at like 6 o'clock in the morning ready to go. I guess it was because of the meth that I did earlier that night, because all I needed was a few hours of sleep and I was right back at it. So I called Suspect and see what they doing. And he said, man, we dropped Jet off and we kept the dope. I tell him, come scoop me. All day we just ride around and we was selling powder and snorting powder all day. Suspect and his gal went and got a pregnancy test and it turned out she was pregnant. Now, they had been doing ice like all weekend. I only hit it that one time, but they was on it, so they hadn't been asleep at all. They're 100 miles an hour. So when we get back to their house, they arguing and shit, and I'm just back and forth trying to keep up, and I can't even do it. It was crazy to watch. We really ran out of shit to do, and so he took me back to baby mama's house. I spent the night again, and I had to work the next day. I woke up late. and I was not feeling it. And so I ended up being late for work. Now, this is like the day after, my brain is just fried. I couldn't even make complete sentences. I went to work and they called me in the office because, I was already in trouble because I was late. I think I missed the morning shift and got there in time for the evening shift is what happened. And so I tried to talk to the manager, couldn't really talk to her. I looked junked out. I looked like a crackhead. I weighed like 120 something pounds at the time. Hadn't eaten in 3 days. Just trash. You know what I'm saying? And she asked me, was I okay? And I said, yeah, I'll be cool. So they let me work for a few hours. And I'm a server. I wait tables. So I have to talk to people like this. And out here looking all crazy. So they let me work for a few hours. I didn't do a very good job, but I did my job. And then I got to go home. And I think I slept for like 14 hours after that and caught up on my sleep. But I still didn't feel right for like a week. It's rough, man. It took me a while to get back to where I could have fun without Molly, ecstasy, whatever. There's good parts about it and bad parts about it. So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it. When you're in the moment and you're doing it, it's the best thing ever. But when you come down and life goes back to normal, it ain't so great anymore. And so just be careful when you do it. One thing I would recommend if you are going to do it, like space it out when you going to do it. Like if you go to the club and do that shit, wait a couple months before you do it again. Let your brain regenerate and stuff and build your dopamine and serotonin back up. Because if you ain't got that, then nothing can make you happy. And that's what it was. My brain was drained of that shit. I've took at least over 1,000 hits of Molly in my life. And I don't know how my brain is not permanently destroyed. Like, my memory's on point. I still remember everything. I still remember that night like it was yesterday. And I was Super Bowl faded that day. But I'm one of the lucky ones because everybody's not that lucky. Everybody's body is affected differently by drugs. And so what's common for me might not be for the next person. And so you just got to be careful, especially unless you got a tested kit and you can test your shit and see what's in it. You never know nowadays. And you don't want to be one of the stories on the news. You know what I'm saying? I'm just lucky that I wasn't. I got more stories about Molly and MDMA, all that. A whole bunch of rolling stories. But that's all the time we got for today. I appreciate y'all joining me, man. Hit the subscribe button, join Team Hip. Hit the like button and let me know if y'all like this shit. I'm going to keep on doing it. Leave me a comment down below what y'all thoughts, opinions on it, what y'all would like me to talk about, and we'll get it popping, you know. And I'll catch y'all on the next one, man.
Ballin' like Diddy, damn, 1 flight, 2 days, he drop it out, I knock it out, I count it up, I ship it. I ain't got time for nickel and diamond, I'm in the kitchen, man, I'm whipping.